everyone. Welcome to Killing the Business Worldwide. Thank you for joining us wherever you may be. I am your host, the final boss of podcasting, Vegas Vic. Versace Stoner is having technical difficulties. He will pop in whenever he pops in. He might pop in a minute, or he might throw his laptop across the room. Who knows? I guess we will find out. But for now, I'd like to welcome a highly respected guest overseas. She's known as the Scandinavian Dragon, Aliss Ink. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank Marcus a man. He was the one that, was singing your praises very high. And we were just like, I wonder if she'll come on a show.
And of course I would. No, Marcus Aman was my first wrestling coach, and still today, very much training partner. We actually run the only local training place in Stockholm together. So yeah, we're still. I'm glad you recommended me. I might have been a little bit sad if you didn't, to be honest.
What got you into the sport?
I actually got into wrestling very much by chance. I did not know basically anything about wrestling growing up. I got into martial arts as a quite young teen. Did that for a long time, different disciplines. Had my main disciplines before transitioning to wrestling in jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, and karate. And I did that. That was my life, 5 to 6 days a week, basically. And then a friend that was actually training martial arts said, "Let's try this wrestling thing. Seems fun." We went to a couple local shows. We thought it was really fun to watch. It was nothing I ever considered doing, but I'm up for a challenge, and that's how it went. Went there. I thought it was just you can go somewhere and test something, right? No obligations coming with that. It's just fun for an evening. And I get there. That was where my head was. Also with the broken toe quite recently, so I wasn't feeling 100%. But I thought, well, I mean, how often do you do this, right? And the first thing they say to me, and that was Marcus Aman actually, right, guys, this is going to be a 5-hour tryout. I hope you guys are ready. Make sure you're hydrated. I was like, wait, what? This was what you said? And yeah, so but it was low at first bump. I just had to do this. It's just no other way. I had so much fun despite the broken toe and everything. It's just like, no, I just love this. It's the mix of everything that I knew from martial arts with all of the added aspects of wrestling, like the entertainment aspect, obviously, and the timing and all these different attributes you need to have in the ring. It was such an intriguing challenge.
But you have an impressive resume, so to speak, in the mixed martial arts world. How many black belts do you have?
I have one in karate and one in jiu-jitsu. So that's like I said, that was two of my main disciplines. Done some competing as well, both in karate and in kickboxing. Nothing major, but some championships outside of Sweden as well.
How about now?
I can hear you.
Finally,
look at that.
I don't know.
Hi.
I had to use my phone. I don't know what the hell is going on with the laptop, but that was annoying.
I was trying to think your wife throat punched you. You lost your voice.
I don't know. No, it wasn't that bad.
That thing never happened before, but
We're glad you're here. Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you so much.
we were just touching base on how she got into wrestling and her background in MMA. But it sounds like you are right, because MMA is not easy. I mean, if you're not tough, it will toughen you up if you don't quit.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I wasn't new to bruises and injuries when I came into wrestling, so to speak. Obviously, I had my fair share before that, and that's obviously something continuing in wrestling. But yeah,
it makes it easier, right? Though, like I came from an amateur boxing background. I didn't necessarily get into wrestling. I was a little bit older. But I could imagine just the endurance training, your strength training. I mean, how you train your body to take pain. All of that really helps in a wrestling match.
Absolutely, you're 100% right. And I think the main thing there is actually discipline. Like I said, I was training different types of martial arts I mean, usually 5 times a week at the very least, and then I added on like my own trainings for strength and cardio and so on top of that. That I was living that part, and when I got into wrestling, obviously that also transitioned over. And I kept doing martial arts parallel for a while. Then when it got more intense with the wrestling, unfortunately, now I'm not so active with the martial arts anymore. I still go to the trainings now and then. I have a really good good relationship to my old coach as well. We're good friends, so I still pop in now and then, but
Have you
just
ever
time.
seen Have you ever seen shows like Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, where they almost do like a worked version of UFC or like MMA? Is that something you'd be eventually interested in?
Absolutely. I think it's an interesting concept. I actually went to about a year ago now to a company doing a little bit of those kind of shows, like cage match style. It was called CFU. So it's also around the Philly area as well.
Yeah, no, I've seen that. It's got like Masha Slamovich over there and a few other people. I think that was running in the
Exactly.
H2O Center. They had like the UFC cage, all women, I believe, too, wrestling, if I'm correct.
Yes, exactly. So they actually did bring me over. I was supposed to do a tour, like a short mini tour for about a week. Unfortunately, the first match ended with an injury, so I had to abort the tour, which is a huge shame. And I hopefully can be able to get overseas again sometime soon.
Well, if you do, we'll definitely have to go out and travel to see it. It's only like 4 hours for me. I've been to that center, the H2O Center, so it's not too far of a ride.
There you go. But yeah, exactly. But I mean, to answer the question, then I'm very much open to those kind of matches as well because I think it's interesting. And I also done a couple of those kind of style matches in Japan as well for Stardom,
Oh, awesome.
which is an absolute treat to be able to do that. So
What was harder, getting into MMA or becoming a professional wrestler?
my own martial arts coach is gonna kill me for this, but yeah, wrestling is harder. It is not necessarily always physically harder, but it takes a different type of toll, both on the body and also mentally, and with all the traveling, obviously. It wears you down much more than I ever felt in martial arts. Obviously, if you do it on the absolute top elite level in MMA, I assume those guys are also, you know, guys and girls, obviously also quite worn down from the training. But then again, how many matches a year do they usually do, right? Wrestling is at least once a week, and usually add on to that as well with the traveling and with tours when it might be more intense and so on and so forth. So yeah, wrestling is a tough mistress to have.
Speaking of UFC and all that, what do you think of the that recent events with like the twerking finisher? Like, you know, the girl won, but then she started like dancing and shaking. Do you think like that kind of like NFL kind of celebration should be brought into fighting sports, or
I know this has been said before, but I think UFC in particular, but fighting events in general is starting to tweak a little bit more towards wrestling and WWE. So I think
more
it's an
entertainment?
entertainment aspect. Yes, exactly. As always, butts in seats. It doesn't matter if it's wrestling or something else. That's
That
at the end of the day, that's where the money comes in.
yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yeah, but does it get to a point where it's like what MMA is today? You know, discipline, honor, respect. Do you think it gets watered? It just waters down the true meaning of MMA just for $1?
I mean, I think it's gonna reach a point. I don't think it's gonna come to a point where it's like worked in the same way. Maybe wrestling promos are like those kind of intrigues, but it's I think it will be elements of it, and you're gonna highlight the differences between different fighters. You're gonna make characters, something that people can lash onto, just to create an
No,
interest.
that's true. Like even if you look at like the old like when I was growing up, boxing was big, but not for what it is now. It was big for the heavyweight division. You had people like Mike Tyson, these characters coming out, Evander Holyfield, Riddick Bowe, all these guys coming out to fight, and they were kind of characters. Yes, they were real fighters, but they had a little bit something extra than all the other guys.
Exactly that, and it becomes a name, and it becomes something bigger, maybe even than the sport in some cases. I mean, Mike Tyson for his good and bad sides, obviously, but it's still a name. Everyone knows who Mike Tyson is, right? And I'd say that even goes for Conor McGregor, despite the shorter career, because he was a character. Uh, so I mean, it's
But the same can be said
I
for like
think the
Hulk
sport
Hogan.
needs that.
Same because he said
I
for Hulk
mean,
Hogan. He's a name, and I mean, and that's kind of synonymous, and they've used each other in ways, boxing and wrestling, like the whole Rocky thing. That
of
was a great
course,
push for
yes,
pro wrestling, but a great push for, boxing in Hollywood. It was a good 50-50 win. I think it has always tried to like touch that, just has to make sure that it does it in a delicate way, that nothing seems fake, because at the end of the day, it's two different beasts. What happens in wrestling, while
yes,
there's real, it's just totally different. Um, and you want the fans to know there's a difference, because the fighters know there's a difference, because at the end of a fight you're gonna feel the difference.
oh, absolutely.
Um,
And I don't think we're
especially
gonna see. I don't think we're gonna see any UFC guys jumping from the cage on their opponent anytime soon. I might be
no,
wrong.
no, 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 or even. I mean, I know they always joke about the celebrity matches, getting Mark Zuckerberg in there, but I don't see that really happening.
No,
That's
no, no,
liability
no.
through the roof. But a little bit of showmanship, I think, can put more seats in, can get through kind of where now everybody wants kind of entertainment. They're looking for that.
Exactly. And I mean, again, characters, and that's what wrestling's been so good at throughout the ages as well. Like ever since it first got on TV, it had characters. I think that's why it's still, I mean, it still works. And as soon as it gets like a figurehead of some sort, they can lash on until like and widen the base from the actual wrestling audience is a huge win for any company. So obviously, anyone's going to be looking for that kind of brand show or entertainment.
What countries have you wrestled in?
Oh, it's been a few. Obviously, all of the Nordic countries, apart from Iceland. They don't have wrestling yet, as far as I know. Been to the UK, been to Scotland. Have yet to go to Ireland. I'm still hoping for that to happen sometime soon. Um, I've also been to Europe, a couple different countries. Germany, for example. I've been to Austria. Going to Italy sorry, not Italy. Switzerland quite soon as well. So it's a few different countries there, obviously, and there's a lot of interesting wrestling promotions down Europe. I've been to the US, as we talked about before, and I've been to Japan.
It's a
What's
shame
your
about Iceland, though, because like I could see, you do a nice outdoor event, you get people sitting in the hot springs, everybody chilling, relaxing, watching some good wrestling. It'd be fun.
It would, wouldn't it? I really hope someone puts that together at some point. I really do. You have to get a ring there, though. That might be a bit of a problem. It might actually be cheaper just to buy a ring and fly it in there.
That's what we can make a ring. If we can get there, we can make the ring.
I
We'll make
mean,
it from within.
just let me know. Let me know. Call me up when you do, please.
We'll get some really good metal bands. Like, it could be a real good show.
I reckon it would be. And honestly, I mean, they have like big parties there now and then. I've never been, but I've heard it extremely good scene for that kind of stuff because there's not that much going on, obviously.
No,
It
but I
is a
heard
quite
it's a
small community.
I've never been personally, but I've had friends go out there. They have said like the hot springs are beautiful, and it's just beautiful landscape, the atmosphere, the environment. The people there are very nice. They're actually very welcoming. I heard that actually about all the
Exactly.
Nordic countries. Very friendly. Like, you guys actually like people more so than Europe, like the rest of Europe.
I mean, I'd reckon, yes, I think that's absolutely true, but I think it also depends on context. I think Nordic people have a tendency to come off quite standoffish if you just approach them. Like, for example, you don't talk to a stranger on the subway in any of the Nordic countries, really, possibly Denmark, at least Friday night. But otherwise, you don't talk to people in certain situations. But if you start and actually have a conversation, you meet someone in the right type of setting, I'd say all the Nordic countries are extremely accommodating.
Yeah, I mean, like I haven't met one person like that we brought on. I mean, that's Starbuck included from over there. Like everybody's friendly on the podcast. I mean, granted, I might not say hi
Isn't
to
everyone
anybody
friendly on a podcast though?
No, they're not. I've had people
Really
come
not?
on
Oh my
and
god.
just
Okay.
come on and fight.
I saved that for the ring actually, so that's okay.
Well, no, we don't have a ring. We just, if it happens, it's gonna happen here. It's either here in the streets.
There you go. There you go. All right.
But now, if we can get something going in Iceland, all the podcast fights will have to take place there once a year. Podcast mania.
That's an amazing idea. You have to make this happen now. I'm counting on you guys, just so you know.
I'm gonna work on it. I have family from Poland. I have friends out there. I can make a few calls. Maybe, just maybe. I don't know I mean, if people, let me ask you this. If somebody did open a promotion, did you think a lot of like wrestlers from around the other countries would travel there to fight?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's such, at least at this point, it's such a novelty to be able to do that. I think the interest would be astronomical.
See, that's why I think I'm so fascinated in just all of Nordic wrestling, because it still is a novelty level. And like here, we get shows like you said every week. We get them every week, but it's like 6 different promotions every week. So you get like burnt out. Well, you guys are still just running, and people have this passion and fire, and it's just totally different, honestly, in atmosphere watching and talking to foreign wrestling compared to what we get here in the U.S. Totally different.
Oh yeah, but I mean, you can tell that the audience as well. They're not really that exposed to this kind of shows. The reactions you get in the Nordic countries compared to honestly anywhere else I wrestled is a huge difference in how much engagement you can get from the crowd. It's like this unpolished gem that is kind of like just there to, to be polished up and made into something bigger than it is today. But the feeling you get from the audience when you come around, like I'd say especially actually Denmark, one of my favorite places to wrestle, but also Sweden and Finland and Norway for that matter. You have this, like, you get this genuine reactions and genuine dislike for the heels and genuine cheering for the faces. You really want this escapism, and people let you know it in the ring as well. So they're not like sitting there and politely clapping their hands or putting up their phones and filming. They're actually really enjoying what they're watching.
No, but that's the I mean, that's the Nordic and European countries. Like you said, you also did Japan. Now I heard that's a totally different setting. How was that over there?
It was an amazing experience. I start there. I mean, and obviously as well to be able to tour with Stardom of all companies is, it's an honor. Honestly, that came in a little bit like from the sideline as well. I did not expect it at all. So I'm very blessed for that. But no, but the crowds are obviously very different. But it is because I worked in front of quiet crowds in other countries as well. It's just a hard time getting the crowd going and getting like getting them to actually give in to their reactions, so to speak. And I've also worked in front of crowds that's already seen everything, and they're not really there to enjoy. They're there to analyze, which is a different type of way of working. And that the first time I encountered that, I was a bit shocked actually. That was how the audiences were. And you start to question as well, am I doing this right? And then kind of like watching what other people are doing, the reactions they get, and then you realize, oh, okay, I need to either this is not for me or I need to adapt. But Japan is not that either. They're there, they're watching, they're absorbing, but it's just like, obviously with the cultural differences in Japan, the reactions is going to be on a different level. But they are watching, and you can hear, even if they're not cheering so loudly, you can hear if something's going on that is a bigger thing. You can hear the gasps, which is also quite cool. You get like a different reaction, but it's still a reaction to what's going on. And obviously the claps and all of that. But it's not like the screaming maybe that you would get in, for example, Denmark.
It's not like us stupid Americans that get right into it. We're screaming, yelling, we're crying.
I like that though. That's the kind of crowds I like.
we get all into it over here. I've seen some of the craziest stuff happen in a good way. But that is, part of what makes wrestling so fun. I mean, I don't know if you worked in 2020 or if you got to wrestle in 2020 in the pandemic when there was no crowds. Biggest complaint is you can't work off of that. If you're a bad guy, you can't draw heat off of thin air. And if you're a good guy, there's no one to cheer for you, to pump you up when you're losing. So it's like all this actually is like fans have been deemed part of a match. You got the fans, the ref, and then you got the fighters. And that's your match. That's how you make a match. Without all four of those pieces, it's like something's missing. Something's off.
Absolutely.
But we do go far here in the U.S. We'll be marking out, screaming. Like I said, I've seen people get up. I saw one guy throw a chair. He got mad. Somebody said something to him. But, you know, it brings back the excitement before the internet. But when people did think a lot of this stuff was real and the stories were real, and it brings back that excitement.
But I mean, and this is the thing, because it doesn't really matter if you come into a wrestling show as an audience. It doesn't really matter what you know. What matters is what you feel, and that's the job of the wrestler, to make people feel. Then what you know, you can leave that behind for a little bit. Just be in this bubble, in this alternate universe, and enjoy what's going on. But yeah, without the audience, it's tough. And obviously, during the pandemic, there were no shows going on a local level. You couldn't travel so much. So yeah, I didn't really. We obviously tried to do some shows during the pandemic, but with spaced out people sitting down, not allowed to move to the bar, so you had to have service going around, and it was obviously a very expensive way to put on shows. So there were not many of those. But it was enough to at least keep some kind of interest going for the wrestlers mainly, I'd say.
I will be the first one to say American fans suck. I mean, they do. I mean, okay, I understand you go to a wrestling show, you have too much to drink, you get a little fisty. I get that, okay, among the crowd. I get that. But the talent in the ring, the sacrifice that they give just to perform for like minimum to, we know wrestlers that I've been like, wait a second, you get paid that much? Gas? What is it?
Handshake and a hot dog, right?
Pretty much. Yeah, exactly. And it's like they deserve a lot more respect for doing that. I mean, you turn around and you hear like recently at an NXT event, some fan got thrown out of a hotel twice because he tried to take pictures of the wrestler's feet. I mean, it was just like,
yeah.
like, at first you think it's a joke when you read this, and now it's like you hear like Dave Meltzer confirming everything. You're just like, this really happened?
Well, let me ask you. I mean, you're a female. I mean, you must get weird DMs time to time.
I also wrestle barefoot, so
But
just saying.
Yes, but you must get some weird like people in the DMs saying, you know, with weird requests or saying
Of course, yeah.
You know, and I think that's the one negative side of social media, because it makes it so, especially I think, you know, it happens to guys too, but for females, they can't engage with other fans because they have to almost shut their messages down. And that stops them from prohibiting, like, to get in touch with like podcasters or other people, because they have to just block it all because they don't know what craziness is coming in.
That's unfortunately the reality, and I've had periods as well where I just not looking at anything, and just like no notifications on my social media like feeds, just because it gets very easily too much. It's not necessarily. I mean, I'm at a stage in my life where I'm not really affected by things that I don't have to engage unless I want to. I will not engage. But also, as you're saying, it's kind of like the sensible message. The fans that is actually just reaching out to be, because they like what you're doing and they appreciate your craft. They drown in everything else, and you're scared to engage with those people because you don't know what's going to come next. And I think that's a bit of a shame, but that's not a wrestling problem per se. It's just social media problem.
And obviously, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a wrestler, an actress, singer, model, whatever it is that you do that might put you in public light. Well, even honestly, just being a female, just being a woman, you can get this kind of stuff on the internet at any given time by anybody. Yes. And like I said, it's not just the females; males get it too. I know plenty of guy wrestlers that have gotten very weird requests, but it seems predominantly like, you know, female. Again, the guy wasn't taking pictures of guys' feet; it was female feet.
Yeah. That is obviously a thing, and anything is okay with consent. But without consent, don't go there. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, I think for guys as well, because I mean, obviously, This is something that comes up sometimes when talking amongst wrestlers. And yes, the guys definitely get this as well. For them, it's usually not the majority of message, though. It's like that's the odd ones out, which for females usually is the opposite, which is a bit of a shame. And I mean, I'm like I said, some people, especially for younger female wrestlers coming into the business, I feel it's a bigger problem maybe than for someone that's been doing this for a while and maybe a little bit older, because it's easier to just filter out and know, okay, but this is not really about me. And it's or it might just actually even if it is, it might not be anything. I don't have to take it personally as a reflection of what I'm doing. But it's for a younger person. I mean, I'm thinking as well because we have a few younger girls starting out now in the Nordics that has a lot of potential, and it's a little bit worrying to know that they're also obviously out on social media, which means they will get these messages.
Yeah, but I mean, not for nothing. Even if they were tomorrow signed by WWE and put in a contract, even worse things could happen to them than what they could be on the indie scene. Like at the very top of wrestling, we're hearing horrendous rumors and different reports about female treatment, male treatment, just wrestlers' treatment in general. So it's kind of a scary place to think about. I guess, like,
very true. But I'd say like this though, we're hearing about it, which we wouldn't have done maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago. We wouldn't have heard about it. Didn't mean it didn't exist. Now we're hearing about it. Exactly.
And it's kind of just to protect yourself a little bit more. Work for promoters and promotions that you trust, people that are reliable, people that are liable too. If they make a mistake, are they quick to blame the next person, or they, take responsibility in themselves and say, "Hey, I screwed up. Let me fix this." And that's the major difference when you try to find someone to work for and how they're going to work and what they're going to do with you. And as long as they all, at the very end, the indie scene, underbelly of wrestling, it can police itself by just not hiring shitty people.
Exactly that. And I mean, I'd say the majority of promoters is actually trying to do this, is at least my feeling. But I wish everyone would, because obviously some douchebags are still getting work. And don't. There's so much talent out there. You don't need to use these people. Just I mean, and then again, obviously there's a scale to things, right? And I don't think everything, like every comment made, is not a irredeemable crime. There has to be a scale to things, but some things should not be acceptable. And the only way to make sure that it's not going to happen again is actually to weed out those behaviors.
Yeah, like, I mean, for instance, I think racism. I don't think racism belongs anywhere in a locker room, okay? Anything racist, if you're going to act racist, you need to go. Bye.
Yes.
Because, it makes a hostile locker room, makes a hostile environment. People don't feel comfortable. People don't feel comfortable. They're not going to perform. It's not going to be a good show. You're going to cost money. You're going to cost time. It's got to go. Something like that, got to go. I mean, there's other things, obviously, that can be addressed that are less annoying or that aren't as vile that, doesn't really affect, but it's just something, like you said, it could be worked on or it could be kind of controlled. But other things are just like, okay, bye, got to go. There is a scale, though.
No, exactly. And it's also what is actually not meant as a bad thing, but just said by ignorance could be. I mean, and obviously, again, scale. If it's something racist, you're out the door, right? That's for example. But yeah, exactly. And it could be something you don't even realize is going to have that effect on someone else. Then talk about it.
And then, that's different than, if it continues and every show you're hearing the same thing. It's like, okay, well, this person obviously doesn't care. They, this is how they believe. This isn't a mistake or a one-off, and you kind of decide what to do. And I like that about that. I like that, that for the most part, other wrestlers will say, hey, I don't want to work with this person because they're doing X, Y, and Z. Whereas in these big companies, they're forced to. If they're in there, everybody's got to work together and smile. At least in the indie scene, they can say, no, we don't want to be associated with this. It's either us or them. We won't come. And like I said, it self-polices itself.
Yes, and I that's the only way, I think, to really get rid of the problem in this case. And if you don't like that, maybe you should not be in this kind of. You shouldn't be in a locker room with other people, or at a show and interacting with an audience. It's like there has to be some kind of like moral line for what is okay and what is not. but I mean, obviously that's just my opinion. But wrestling has gone through so much shit already, and it's also, if you look at it, we want to have a safe work environment, right? Because we're working. We don't want to spend time with people that is going to be dangerous, or is going to be obnoxious for the wrong reasons. I mean, obviously you're not going to get along exactly the same amount of ways with
No, but there's a
everyone,
way
and
to be
that's fine.
professional.
But
There's a way to be professional
exactly,
in the locker room and act and just go about your business. It's not like the olden days where people used to, trash your gym bag and all of that. You've kind of gotten a little bit
exactly.
past that. But, I mean, there is still some bullshit that takes place at any
Oh,
show.
of
And,
course.
some
Which is
shows
like
worse than others.
exactly, and but it's like it's also in the Nordics. I think I feel we're very we have a lot of equality in the wrestling here.
Yeah.
Which, but I mean, and obviously I can hear that from a lot of wrestlers coming in from outside as well, because it's not always uh, everyone's a wrestler, right? We're colleagues, and we treat each other fairly. If someone is changing, doesn't matter if the male, female. Usually, it's just one room. That's how the backstage is usually works, and you're respectful. You just look away. But obviously, for wrestlers coming from other places, that could be very alien. So that's also a bit of a cultural difference, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
But
going to France
it's
and
also
going to a nude beach. It's like, well, the first time you might feel a little weird, but by the fifth time you get used to it.
what happens the second, third, and fourth time? Just asking.
I don't know about those, but I mean, you just bite your teeth in your eyes.
It's
But
just yeah, it's like a step ladder.
step ladder, but with any culture, there's going to be some kind of change in shock that you got to expect at least.
No, but exactly, and but it's as long as everyone's respectful, trying to do the best. I don't see it as a it is not something that wrestling cannot survive. Um, and it will, and it's I think the environment for rest has never been so good for wrestling. If you look at the backstage areas, at least the ones I've been in, as it is now. Um, with the obviously now and then you're always going to find someone, right? Some locker rooms is going to have their problem sources, but it's for the most part, I'd say the locker rooms are a good environment to be in because people are quite respectful. There's obviously other problems in wrestling though with I mean, because it is a competitive business, and that's also going to bring its own part of problems into the mix. But it's that's a different kettle of fish, I'd say.
Well, I'm hoping that it's still new, that you guys aren't really running into too much competitive yet, that everybody's still working together to build the scene.
Well, I mean, I'd say a lot of us are trying to do exactly that, and there's always going to be those people that wants have a different image of what they see in the future. So there are some companies that refuse to work with each other, even on this small scene, which is it's quite sad, to be honest, because we're not that many people. We could make everyone could benefit from actually helping each other and on a bigger scale things. But it's always going to be wherever I come in wrestling, there's going to be those kind of stories. That's usually not so much between the wrestlers, I find, at least not at this level of scene or this scale of scene, but it's more I'd say a promoter problem. Obviously, then it's the potential of money involved. Not necessarily it's going to be a lot of money to this day and age, but that's obviously you have your aspirations of where you want the business to go.
The PWI Women's 250 came out today. I had not time to see the whole list. Did you make the list?
I actually don't know. I had no idea it came out today. I have to check that out now. So sorry, I should have checked.
I will see.
Hopefully,
list.
I made it last year, so hopefully this year as well. But I was actually on the 500 this year, which is quite cool.
Are you? I just my issue of the 500 finally just came in the mail, and I haven't got to read it yet. But now I'm gonna have to at least be like, oh, there's one more person I know. That's what's cool about the 500. Every year, I know more and more people on that list from the indie scene, and it's like, okay, one of these days I'm gonna see number one and be like, I knew that guy when he worked at a small hall.
I mean, it is really, and I always try to like figure out about because obviously a lot of the people that is ending up on the list is people I met in different promotions when I've been touring Europe from different places, and also more and more I feel European wrestlers are actually ending up on the list as well, which is really cool. But yeah, the 500 list this year, I think I was 200 something, oh, just before 300, I think. So mid-ish.
See, Vic, I still think we're in the wrong country for wrestling. I know we got some of the best in Northeast, but I think we really got to start to travel more outside. Just go full head on into the Nordics.
It is a whole world of wrestling, and the Nordics needs to be experienced, I'd say. Definitely. And the heart in the Scandinavian scene right now is obviously Denmark. It's a booming scene right now. So that would probably, if you're gonna make the travels, I'd say start Denmark. Do also go Stockholm, Helsinki, possibly Oslo. They don't run shows quite as often, but there's also scene, which is
I might actually
also
start in
really fun.
Germany, actually going WXW and then moving my way.
Oh, of course. If you sideline the Nordics for a bit, definitely you should definitely go Germany. WXW is I think still the biggest wrestling company in Europe. So that would be a definite visit. And also obviously UK has so many good wrestling promotions. So that would also be worthy of a stop, I'd say.
They do, but I feel like Finnish wrestling and like the Nordic wrestling is different. It's not like other European wrestling. Something exciting about. Because I've watched British wrestling and I'll be like, it's okay, but it hasn't really sparked my interest. Not like slam wrestling or something like that has, where I want to watch it and actually get excited for the card. It's weird.
I mean, I think obviously there's differences between the promotions in the Nordics as well. Not everyone has exactly the same approach and the same style, but I think it's a rawness to the scene here they can't really get anywhere else. When it's too established, it turns into something different. Just that it still is underground, that the audience don't quite know what to expect, and a lot of people coming to a wrestling show here is still gonna go watch it for the first time. Have not, at least in for the most part in Nordics, people have not even watched it on TV. They just figure out, okay, I saw this poster. This is gonna be a fun thing to just go and figure out what it is. Or they might have had a friend that gone and it's like, oh yeah, should you go to this thing because it was really really cool last time. And that's kind of it's a different type of audience, and that makes the scene different, I think.
See, that
And
makes me
also,
want to open my own Triller network for just Nordic wrestling and get it streaming across the world.
wouldn't that be brilliant? See, you're gonna have a promotion in Iceland, and
Well,
and you're also gonna.
After the 1 year mark, then I can use that money to invest inside to get all of the wrestling there covered, so people can just know where to tune in, all in one specific
Perfect.
spot.
I think this is a brilliant idea. I mean, if you're not doing it, someone else definitely should, because this is.
Well,
I think
just
this
know
would
that
be a
I
market.
said it first, and I want at least 10% if they go ahead.
I will definitely remember that.
We talked about having watch parties, like find like an event that's live overseas, just have like a watch party here to bring like Stockholm wrestling to the United States, because it's very
Well, it is. It with 3 or 4 indie shows on us a week. It's like some people don't know where to find or even that it exists in another country. They don't even think about it, but like we do. So it's like they'll do a watch party, like you said. People will get invested, and people will want to watch, and people will understand and know. Because I've seen people from other countries get invested and know what's going on here, just viewing and seeing clips and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, obviously, the things people are watching from the US is obviously, I mean, the main promotions is so big in comparison to anything we have in Europe. So it is a bit of a different thing, I'd say. But yeah, people do watch the indie promotions in the US as well. I think it's a very interesting scene. I try to scout it a little bit as well now and then. But it's also a bit of a jungle because there's so many different styles and different. You have your promotions that only do like the lucha style or the deathmatch promotions, and then you have like the more indie high spot promotions and all of these things. And if you don't know what's what, it's like, oh, I have no idea how I'm gonna see this day or today.
I
But
know
it's
too many indie high school promotions. I think that's a good term for it. Um,
I
no, but
mean,
you do. But we have. I don't know if you guys do. You guys get access to IWTV?
yes.
Yes, you can. It kind of pretty much you can see anything on there is pretty decent, and you can kind of
That's
they kind of
that's
map it
actually my
out.
go-to. Yeah, that's my go-to for that kind of promotion. Actually, Body Slam from Denmark is also on there.
Oh,
So that
nice.
could be something to look out for. Actually, I think their shows usually come out a little bit after on the network, but they have a lot of material there. So would definitely recommend a watch.
Jeez, I was gonna say that's bullshit. You guys can see everything from the States, but we can't see anything that's going overseas. That's
See,
not
that's why we got to make this happen, and then we can get
Exactly.
everything from overseas. We'll send crews out there to film everything. This would be a big production.
There you go. I mean, the promotions in Scandinavia is growing as well. Like Body Slam, like I just mentioned, they're doing a super show now in February for I think the place they're aiming to sell out takes about 2,000, 2,500, which is if that actually sells out, that's unprecedented in Scandinavian wrestling. So there is a lot of things going on here. And recently, NEW, also a Danish promotion, sold out over 1,000 tickets for an event for a scene where a regular sold out crowd may be, somewhere between 300 to 500 people. That's usually what the event places that can host wrestling rings can take in. That is willing to do wrestling. Just that amount of like extra ticket sales and like that capacity of a venue it says something about what's happening to the scene right now.
Yeah,
So Denmark is at the forefront, but I can guarantee that Sweden and Finland is going to be close to follow, and then Norway as well.
Vic, do you have the final number? What got brought in for the Coliseum Vacation Lane Cup?
Oh,
Like what was it? Like 2,500 or 1,000? How much? How many people got in?
Oh, that one. It was. You told me it was like 1,500.
1,500. So I mean, like that's a top tier New England and top tier United States indie promotion, Limitless Wrestling. But you're saying now, something there's got like 1,000. That's a top tier promotion. If you can bring in 1,000 folks to watch wrestling that's not WWE or AEW or New Japan, Ring of Honor, that is really good.
exactly. That's what I'm saying as well. It's like it is something happening with the scene right now. It is buzzing, and it's getting interest, and mainstream media as well is starting to slowly pick up on this. You can see it in newspapers, and you can see it in different TV productions as well. Like they want to have material from wrestling and clips and so on. I think obviously with the Netflix thing going on now with WWE, that is just going to skyrocket because now all of a sudden people that might never have been exposed to wrestling before actually has access.
Yeah, but they get exposed with all the dirty shit first, and then they're gonna get to watch Raw.
But stories sell. Stories sell. It's always going to be that. So you give them the story first, like if you watch like a TV series or something, you want the dirt, right?
Yeah,
Give them
that
the
is
dirt
true.
first. Get them hooked, and then you pull them in.
That is true. That is kind of smart marketing, I think, if you think about it that way, because they're gonna want to know about those things anyways.
I mean, everything's available now. It's like, for better or worse, nothing is really candid with wrestling as it is, I'd say. Very few secrets are left, but we can still make it exciting. That's the job, right?
It's a job that you love.
Exactly. That's it. It's like there's I mean, obviously, it has to be something wrong with you to want to do wrestling, right? It's like a
Oh yeah, but who's mentally right these days? No one.
Also very true. But that's so. I mean, it's some screw loose somewhere. That has to be it. But it's you're in the business because you love it.
I think the real secret is you get into wrestling because you want to get to Hollywood, and that's the gateway.
I mean, maybe for some people, I'd say for the scene where I'm from, that is a bit of a stretch, to not say like a major leap. But But obviously, some people do get in for like the potential of star power. Yes.
No, but yeah, I mean, no.
But
Generally, you have a passion for what's going on. You grew up around it or watching it. It's something you wanted to do. You wanted the lights. You wanted the action. You're athletic, and maybe you don't want to. If you haven't done MMA or boxing, maybe you want to be aggressive, but not to the point that you're gonna end up out and injured on a regular basis. I mean, yes, injuries happen in wrestling, but I could see, getting knocked out, on a Saturday night, in a UFC fight. You're not going to work Monday.
no, exactly. But most of us do though, and
The
that's the thing.
wrestlers
It's
do.
like,
The UFC
yes,
people don't. That's the difference. But your
exactly.
concussions aren't kind of planned, and it's something that just happens, and you've got to learn to kind of walk and work around it. Wrestlers are superhumans in that extent. I mean, I've seen people get concussed and they'll like finish their match like they know what like everything's done, and they won't even remember what has happened after the point of concussion.
I know, and I've had those as well. And that's super, super scary. I mean, I had a few concussions during wrestling, and the two really scary ones. But it's like, yeah, you still finish the match, and you get up and go to work on Monday because that's what you do. I mean, I've went to work with like a jaw that broke like five days earlier. It's like, yeah, I'm going to meetings because I do wrestling because I love doing it, but I still need to do my other stuff to make life go around. And I don't want to compromise. I mean, I don't want to compromise wrestling for my work life, but that also means I can't compromise my work life for wrestling, which is, I mean, I think how it is for a lot of indie wrestlers,
Well,
unless
yeah,
you're,
because even if you get injured at your regular job, then you can't wrestle on the weekends. So like, one affects the other.
absolutely, and especially for people obviously having very physical day jobs as well. I don't anymore, which is quite comforting in that aspect. But yeah, obviously, it's like it's gonna suck some days, and it's also like you had like a couple good shows in the weekend or whatever. You've been traveling, you get home, you might get home late, but you still have a bit of like the show high going on, and then you hit Monday, and you're back in reality. You're doing
Oh yeah.
maybe something you're not loving quite as much. If I'm being political about it, and it's like, and that's how it's gonna be for a lot of us until. Because I mean, it's no way to live off wrestling in Scandinavia right now, unless possibly if you're a promoter, maybe. But that's still a very very small percentage that is able to make it work that well.
See, we don't have to fight injuries. We don't have to do any of that. We just have to deal with power outages and no internet. Those are the two killers. No internet and power outages.
So, well, I mean, that can be quite annoying as well, though. I mean, I'm all respect for that.
Yeah, power outages and no. Yeah, when it comes to kids, we just let them hang around, give them a job or something.
That's amazing, though.
My,
It's
my,
good.
daughter, my daughter's my PR director.
How old?
3 years old.
Oh, look at that. Start him early. Good choice.
I'm too young.
Mine's. I have one. He's 6. He's at school now, but he'll be twitching. He'll jump on sometimes. They I taught mine how to podcast young because I feel like it will be a useful skill in the future. Not just podcasting itself, just getting used to talking. Because a lot of kids, they go to school and they have to read these reports and stuff, right? And they get really nervous and really scared. They've never done public speaking. But if you get
Very
used
true.
to talking online live and you just go, you kind of lose that fear after a while. Because it's like,
Yeah.
if you say something, you say something. Fuck it. What are you going to do?
That is so true.
And so now my kid don't really like fear that. Like, he'll go and talk, to teachers. He'll raise his hand. He'll do whatever. Cause he's like, I've talked to crowds. I played Twitch. I've, talked to people on there. I've done whatever. It doesn't matter.
It's a useful skill to have, I reckon. I mean, and get it early as well.
I mean, I can vouch for. I mean, when I started podcasting, there's a community bingo event that happens once a week. I help out the community and volunteer there, and I would not be the one calling bingo balls if it wasn't for podcasting. No way.
I mean, it's different when you have a screen, right? I mean, I gotta be honest as well. It's like before I started wrestling, I was not a big fan of talking. I hated having my photograph taken. So it's also like I'd say wrestling in a way has opened doors to doing other things in life that is not affiliated to wrestling, which is quite cool. It's a better acceptance of who I am as a person and how others perceive me, I think. Uh, so that's kind of like one of the positive aspects of wrestling. Otherwise, wrestling obviously can be quite rough, and you can get comments about things in a negative way, obviously, especially with everything being so available online. But there is obviously good things to it as well, and just getting comfortable to be in front of other people and doing something just because the love of doing it, and not being scared of walking into a crowd of like, I mean, 1,000 people, and feeling that that is fine. I mean, you should be a little bit nervous just before you go on stage, though. I think that's part of it. Otherwise, you don't actually want to do this if you're not a little bit nervous, though.
If you're not nervous, you're nervous.
Exactly that.
Because, yeah.
I know. I laughed because recently I did something and I wasn't nervous at all. And somebody asked me, "Are you nervous?" And I'm like, "No, not at all." I was pretty good too, but I'm like, "No, I'm not nervous." I was like, "Well, you should be." And I'm like, "Oh shit, why?" And all of a sudden I just got nervous and I was like, "Oh, time to go out." And I was doing the commentary at the time, so I went out and I was like, it was all good, but a little nerve always keeps you on your toes, which keeps you a little bit more alert, and then you can kind of pick up on things. You can read up on things. You can learn a lot. It's always good to go into a situation with open eyes, open ears.
Yes, that is also true. And I mean, if you're not feeling anything for what you're doing, you don't care anymore. And if you're not caring, why do you go out into a ring and get potentially injured and definitely going to be stiff in the morning, or like hurting in the morning, if you don't love what you do, right? So you have to care. So yeah, a little smidgen of nervousness is still healthy,
Just a little.
but it's
I'm stiff in the
very
morning.
different.
My joints hurt, and I don't even get to fight the night before. This isn't even fair. I should
That's,
just
that's
stop
why
fighting just for the fact.
that's why I say as well when people ask me about like, okay, but because I get the question sometimes if I make any money off wrestling, obviously, and with the indie scene being so new as it is, it's kind of like I'm in a position where I haven't done the math, but I don't think I'm losing money, which I think is quite rare. But I always say that, like, well, I mean, when I was doing martial arts, I had to pay to get beaten up, and at least now I get some kind of pay for it. So, you know, it's it's a better equation financially.
So where can people find you on social media?
I would say I'm easiest to find and most active on my Instagram. That is Aliss_Ink underscore. And otherwise, I'm also on Facebook, of course, and on X, as it's supposed to be called. I still haven't got used to that one. And there's plenty of material as well on YouTube if you give me a search, if you want to see matches and so on from different places all around the world. So give that a look.
Versace, any final questions or thoughts?
Well, I got more new wrestling to watch tonight. So you get these great interviews going, and then I get a night of new wrestling to watch. I'm excited for that. I like to see different things. Every person, especially I really believe this about kind of the foreign scene right now. Foreign to us, anyways, brings something special and different to the scene of wrestling. It's making it just another boom era around the world, not just one spot. Everybody's thriving. Places that you didn't think could have wrestling 10 years ago are now having sold out crowds. It's a lot going on, and it's great to be part of the ride. But yeah, I want to watch more. I want to see more. I want to learn more of the scene of what's going on in the Nordics, because like I said, that is one of the boom places. I hear a lot of talk about, a lot of hype going on about the different um, wrestlers. Not only that, and the promotions, and the championships and the belts and the fights, and the different what we do get to see here. It's nice to it's presented well.
Amen to that. I'm actually going to give you a tip since we're talking about IWTV. If you want something to watch tonight, I'd say go into IWTV, search for Body Slam, and then you look at the Scandinavian tournaments, which is the biggest tournament format wrestling in the Nordics right now. I'd say if you wanted to start with 2021 and work your way up to the quite recent one, because this is a yearly event. And it's one way of also highlighting, like I said, Body Slam might be the biggest promotion right now in Scandinavia and in the Nordics. It is the go-to place and also has a lot of connections with different places around Europe and around the world. So the Scandinavian tournament is one way to also highlight the Scandinavian talent, but also mixing it up with different from different places and wrestlers from all over. So I would say Body Slam Scandinavian tournament is a good place to start if you want to see what Scandinavian and Nordic wrestling is about.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out tonight. Thank you for sharing.
I know what I'm doing tonight.
Well, I appreciate
You're welcome.
I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming on today. And
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
if you do win Slam Gold, we want you to bring in the title back to the show. We don't have it. We never had anyone from Slam that says we're gonna win the championship for you. That's why Arthur Otter did not win. He did not say we're gonna win it for you.
You know, at some point you might have tag team champs and women's champ all on the same show. Think about that one.
That's the idea.
Hey, that's a really cool idea. I can do that. I mean, I hold 2 championships at this point, so we'll see what happens. I'll try to keep it and get a 3rd one just for you guys.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And thank you very much for listening and watching. This is Killing the Business Worldwide. Take care of each other, everyone. Goodbye and good night.